mother! Oh boy, folks, it is a 30 plus degree day today here in Sydney, and it is too hot for this damn week. I'm having one of those Mr. Bean moments. Well, I'm not having a Mr. Bean moment. I'm having many Mr. Bean moments. I was in the process of getting my mooncake transmitter put where my 80 meter OzQRP rig used to live because unfortunately I was taking some medication for a tooth that I had removed and decided to come out to the shack and play radios. It's probably not a good idea. And anyway, I managed to blow something up, and then I was fiddling around, poking around, and then I let some smoke out, and then I got angry and I let some more smoke out. And yeah, end of the story is that I pretty much fried the entire board. So I now only have my OzQRP 40 meter rig, which makes me very sad. I am going to try and put something in this case. I'm thinking this might be where my 1.8 megahertz 160 meter rig will live. So it's not the end of the world, but it's the end of my world. Then I decided I was going to make my mooncake transmitter my 80 meter rig for the time being. Thought it'd be nice to see if I could get some more QSOs on it, and I decided to put a proper jack in the back of it, and that's where the problem started because I was having trouble getting it in, and then because I had the lid off, I managed to pull off the lead, the center pin that runs to the BNC on the back, and I didn't realize. And then I fired it up into a dummy load, and the transistors were getting very hot, and I'm like going, what's going on here? And then puff. Smoke. I've blown the BD139s in this. I do have one BD139, but this had two in it to get it up to 3.5 watts. So what I'm going to do is, at least on some level, the OzQRP is going to be a donor. So after its demise, at least it's going to provide some life. Back to another rig that's been in an accident. So it ticked the donor card, and it's going to give up one of its BD139s. And then hopefully we'll have that rig going. I will get the direct conversion receiver going as well, the chocolate box receiver, and that's here on the bench as well. We've all seen that before, and we'll be firing that up with the chocolate box receiver with my mooncake transmitter. Anyway, that's all the disasters that have been happening in the shack. It is complete pandemonium. I'm hoping you'll come back here. We'll have a mooncake transmitter that's working, and it'll all be set up, and there'll be a little bit of sanity back in the shack. Is there ever sanity in the shack? That's the $1 million question. So that's one transistor in, and let's just see if we're getting somewhere. We'll turn off transmit. And let's transmit C. Woohoo! So we're getting about 1.5 watts. So I might try and piggyback that transistor because last time it got me up close to 3. So there you go. This is the wonderful thing about building your own gear. The smoke comes out of it, and if you've built it, especially if you built it from scratch, you'll be able to work out what's wrong or just rebuild it. It's no big deal. Well, we have managed to knock another wire off, so really annoying. So what happened on transmitters also happened on receive, but once again, we know what the problem is, we can fix it, but my soldering is very dodgy. So we're off to JCar now to get ourselves a few BD139s and maybe a couple of heat sinks as well. And whatever else we see there that takes our fancy. Well, $8 later, and we've got 2 heat sinks and 3 transistors, so we're good to go. Back to the shack and see if we can get that transmitter going. Here we have our BD139 that is totally destroyed, and we have got ourselves back in action after a trip to JCar and get a load of, hold on, we'll just get a bit of side tone on the TS520. Watch this. Nearly 4 watts. For those of you that have been watching the trials and tribulations of this transmitter as it slowly evolved, I've now mounted the 2 BD139s. One was piggybacked on the other without a heatsink. It was very slapdash. I know these leads are longer than they should be, but everything seems to be working very well, and we have it mounted on its own heatsink and on the back of this tin box as well. So fingers crossed we don't lose any more smoke. But this is going to be my 80-meter rig if it behaves itself, and we're going to try and team it up with the direct conversion receiver. I'm in two minds about what to do with this. I'm very tempted to throw a DDS VFO in it and see if I can get more frequency agility on it and a display. And I would also like to team it with the AirSpy, but I'm very worried that something will go wrong with the switching and I'll transmit into that and destroy it. I've already nearly done that on a couple of occasions. Be nice to know where I am. Around 3020. VK2NA. Nice signal. Dave. QTH. Newcastle. Wow, still here. Thank you for sticking around right to the end of the video. As you saw there, we managed to get a QSO at the end with a gentleman in Newcastle, which is only a couple of 100 kilometers away. Not exactly DX, but you did notice that I was able to access a South Australian SDR online radio. So South Australia's well over 1,000 kilometers, and I have worked a station down in Ballarat on this same setup. Now, We liberated a lot of smoke today, and we had a lot of fun with having to do repairs. But each time we have a disaster, more often than not, we end up with a better rig. And in this instance, we now have the two BD139s with their own heat sinks mounted on the side of the case, a lot better heat distribution, and we're now getting close to 5 watts out of the rig. So a very usable CW setup. And like you saw there, if the band conditions aren't too crowded, obviously this receiver has limitations. It's direct conversion, you've got an image frequency, all that stuff, and it's probably not that selective. But on a quiet band, you could hear there, very, very workable. Hope you enjoyed seeing the Homebrew Station, and I shall see you in the next episode of The Art of Engineering 7.3.